Hey guys, Luna here, and welcome back to our live. Let's just get right into it, shall we? We've been making our way through multiple different things, but now let us do a charity event. Cove pushed himself to his feet from where he had been bent down in the sand, stretching out his back and groaning softly. A tired breath slipped past his lips as he wiped his brow, looking over at the shore. Looks great. You stood behind him, joining in the surveying of the sand that almost seemed to sprinkle beneath the midday sun. The two of you had been looking out on the beach since sunrise, cleaning up and down the beach, looking for various debris, or debris, as some people might say it, and the hard work had paid off. Using your hand to shield your eyes from the blinding rays, you glanced across the way where the other volunteers from Orca had gathered. They were easily recognizable by the high visibility vests they wore. It looked as though everyone was about ready to wrap things up for the day. I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. Let's hope more people learn the joy of putting trash where it belongs. You nodded in agreement, reaching for your drink bottle and gulping down the cool water inside. Though you knew the work you were doing was for a good cause, being out in the heat all morning had been slowly draining your energy until you had next to nothing left. Cove placed his hands on his hips, a pleasing grin pulled out the corners of his mouth, and he admired the work you'd both done. He had begun to realize, during your time volunteering for the organization, how seriously Cove took his service. It was easy to see that it was something important to him. You enjoyed the work, but it was mostly to have a good time. Being part of an organization like Orca meant you get to meet different people and go to all sorts of places that you might not have had the chance to go to usually.
Not bad.
We did a nice job today. It's been a good year so far. It's crazy to think that's already time to push the big events. You let out a big breath, thinking the formal dinner that Orca organized every year. Being a completely fundraising-focused event for large donors, it was crucial for the organization's projects in the year to come. You had to be over 18 to attend, so this was your first opportunity to actually see it in person. All you had heard about it so far was that it was a prim and proper occasion with speeches and everything. You didn't know what else to expect from it, as you weren't part of the group who planned the event. Before the big night came around, the volunteers would have to sell the tickets for it, and that's where you'd be helping. I'm nervous about the event. You look down at the sand shyly, twisting your fingers together. It's going to be fancy and full of very important strangers. I can agree with you there. It's part of the program, though.
I
just don't feel excited about attending a super formal meal with a proper etiquette and stuff, you know? He threw his arms out to the side, making a bit of a show of how ridiculous it seemed to him. I got sand all over my room and only one nice shirt, and I go barefoot pretty much wherever I can. I'm gonna be so out of place. I don't want to have to worry about manners. What if they have more than one fork and plate, like in the movies, and I have to pick the right one? What am I supposed to do then? You groaned at the thought, dragging your feet through the sand while Cove chuckled at the thoughts. A small beeping noise came from Cove's pant pocket, and he pulled out and glanced at the screen.
Huh?
It's the organizers. They sent a text to the group. Time to call it a day here. Finally, let's move on. Cove tucked his cell away, eagerly turning to you. Let's head over and drop off the trash bags at the trucks. Then we can drive back and join the ticket team. We gotta be there pretty soon to relieve them. With the stretch of shore this long, the plan was to switch places with the other team who had been pushing the tickets for the fundraising dinner halfway through. It'd be a full day of work, but it was the Orgus' largest event of the year, and all hands were on deck to make sure it was a success. You nudged your soda against Cove's. He chuckled and nudged you back playfully with his now free hands. You collected the trash bags along the way, heading across the beach to hoist them into the trucks before heading off to the next job. The drive back to your neighborhood and making your way to the shopping street was fairly quick, though Cove stressed a little about being late. Luckily, he was able to find a parking spot nice and close to where you needed to be. You jumped out of the car and quickly went toward where you knew the group would be. Finally, the stall that was set up to sell tickets finally reaching the stall that was set up to sell tickets, you stopped for a moment to catch your breath. That was quite the flurry of activity. It would be your job for the rest of the afternoon to sell tickets for the fundraising dinner, and looking around the street, you saw that there were plenty of potential buyers out today. That would hopefully help move the tickets along. The staff itself was simple: a portable table with a few plush sea animals as decorations and a black banner struck across the front. There were 2 volunteers who were already packing up and getting ready to head off the beach. They gave both of you a friendly smile as you arrived. Hey Cove, hey Luna, how are things going? How did things go on the beach?
Not bad.
Not bad, it was good. Play Ace is looking great. We're lucky to get a 2-for-1 when it comes to you guys. Cove cleared his throat awkwardly from beside you, and you noticed his cheeks flushing pink. Here we go again. You felt your own cheeks getting hotter. You could tell that they weren't trying to embarrass you on purpose, but you wish they hadn't said anything at all. The volunteers made room for you and Cove behind the table, while they circled around to the front of it. Thanks for coming in for a shift. We better make this quick so we can head off to the next place. Yeah, fine. You mumble a reply, content to sit back and let Cove deal with the handover. One of the volunteers handed you a clipboard with all the details needed to sell tickets, while the other tossed a set of keys to Cove, which he caught with ease. These are for the money box and supply kit. Make sure to keep them on you at all times. Aside from handling the cash for the tickets, there's also a form on the clipboard for the guests to fill in their info. That way we know how many tickets we've sold and who will be attending the event. There's a small script beneath that if you get stuck for what to say, and that's about it. Pretty simple, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think we got this. Satisfied that you knew what you were doing, the volunteers said their goodbyes and started walking away, leaving you and Cove to manage the stall alone. The keys jingled in his hands and Cove raked them off before he stuffed them into the pockets of his pants for safekeeping. We'll bring in a lot of money. Have fun at the beach. Once the volunteers were out of sight, Cove dropped down in a chair behind the counter with a sigh. Made it here just in time. It's cool they traded places with nothing happening. They might have been late getting to cleanup duty. He leaned back in his seat, getting fully comfortable in the space, and gave you a small smile. You took the other seats. It was a simple plastic chair that squeaked when you sat on it, but it gave you a good view of the street. I'm glad this work lets us at least rest in one place. Yeah, I really need to get off my feet for 5 seconds. Cove rummaged around the station a little, picking up a stuffed toy orca and holding it in front of his face. You had to admit that it was pretty cute, with its big, bulging eyes and oversized flippers. Setting it back down on the top of the table, Cove moved on to check out the rest of the stall, finding a cooler stashed beneath the table. When you pulled it out and opened the lid, you could see that it was filled with half-melted ice cubes and about a half a dozen water bottles. Grabbing one of the plastic bottles, he unscrewed the cap and took a long drink. He watched the condensation running along the sides onto his fingers.
So?
Do you want one? Cove set his water on the side of the table before pulling out another one, holding out towards you. You accepted the water bottle. Thanks. After opening it up, you took a drink and let out a satisfied sigh. You hadn't realized how thirsty you'd been. It was always good to stay hydrated. The two of you got settled in easily, and you took the chance to look over the paperwork on the clipboard. Cove joined you, leaning over the shoulder to get a better look. Seems like pretty standard stuff. He muttered and you nodded quietly. He had general information about the event and the work you needed to do at the stall, as well as the amount of tickets sold thus far and the number remaining. Cove tapped a finger on the counter as he read quietly over the notes, muttering a few things now and then that you didn't fully hear. He seemed content to be there, and you were sure that the afternoon would pass by quickly. When he glanced out toward the crowd and made a small sound, he followed his line of sight to see a potential supporter was on their way over to the booth. Try to relax for a bit. All in all, it was a pretty easy task, and you were sure that you and Cove were going to do great at it. You gave the customer an easygoing smile, casually flowing into the conversation with them. Time passed as the two of you manned the stall. As people approached, your sales pitch would either have them asking for a ticket or two, or heading off and mumbling, "Maybe next time." All in all, you managed to sell a decent amount of tickets, and you could tell that Cove was happy with the outcome. As the afternoon drifted along, 6 p.m. arrived, time to pack everything up and head home for the evening. Your work with Orca was far from over, but right now there was only one thing left to focus on, attending the actual events. The day continued in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. Liz was helping you get ready while Cove was on speakerphone. You're currently in the midst of picking out an outfit, which Liz was helping you with while Cove gave his input from over the phone. Of course, Cove couldn't see any of the items you and Liz were choosing between, but he was trying to help all the same. The event had strict guidelines, and you couldn't let it... and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. You wanted to be practical about it. It was going to be quite a long event, so you wanted to make sure you were dressed comfortably while still sticking to the letter of the code. Your nose wrinkled out in thought as you rifled through the options, silently weighing the pros and cons of each.
That's fine.
You don't need to get too in your head thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. Whatever you go with, it'll be great. I never thought I'll see the day where Cove Holden would encourage me to wear something formal. A quiet chuckle came from your phone, and you smiled at the sound. Yeah, this really is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over the option one last time. Decided to sign on an outfit, and quick! I can do a dress, button-down shirt and pants, blouse and pants, button-down shirt and skirt, blouse and skirt. I think I'll do blouse and pants. Liz nodded in approval, clasping her hands together, satisfied.
Good.
Finally, we're making some progress. That sounds like it'll totally be fine. I'm just wearing a shirt with buttons and slacks personally. Staying in front of your mirror, you quietly assess your outfit. You thought about adding an accessory or two. You needed a little something extra to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. I'll do a necklace. Turning back to the mirror, you let Liz drape your best necklace around your neck and clasp it together at the back. I don't really wear bracelets. I don't wear a belt, ring, earrings, anklet, hat, bun, vest, tie. Ooh, I like that. If it was a bow tie, I would do it, but just a tie. I'll do a bun vest. It's a formal event, after all. You couldn't think of a better time to wear it. I'll do a watch just in case. Grabbing your watch from your bedside table, you fasten it around your wrist and quickly check the time. It was almost time to go. That was everything. And with that... I don't really want to do makeup. You're ready to go. Finally, you were dressed and it all had come together. Okay, just gotta change my shirt and I'll be at the car. See you in a minute. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling at her lips. You look very nice, Luna. You twisted around in your outfit excitedly, knowing you had made the right decision with everything, and you had feeling more confidence. 'Cause hey, sometimes confidence is key. Liz wiped a 10-tear away with her fingers, sniffing dramatically. Oh, precious Luna, you're really all grown up. It all happened in a blink of an eye when I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you toward the door.
Alright,
time to get downstairs. Your special boiler waits. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room, where your moms were waiting for your appearance. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, Luna.
nice.
And very mature, too.
Mm-hmm.
I know, right? They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and had her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. You wonder why they're making such a big deal. Liz came over to you and smirked, as if she was reading the very thoughts in your head. You have to get used to it one day, Luna. You're the baby of the family, after all. Ma came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms wrapped around you, and then a third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hoped you have so much fun tonight.
Have fun.
We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With one last goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Stepping out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently and looked across the streets. Honestly, not too bad. Cove was standing there in the street. His eyes met yours immediately, as if he had been watching your house for the moment you would come out. He smiled bashfully. Hey, Luna. Hey, stranger. Barely recognize you. Took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though he didn't feel overly posh. It made sense for him, and it was honestly a sight for sore eyes. It was always beautiful for you. He looked over you as well, a subtle blush creeping over his face as he quickly cleared his throat and averted his gaze. You seemed to be struggling to find something to say, rubbing at the exposed part of his arms awkwardly. Thank you for coming with me and for dressing really nicely for this. Your outfit is good. Better than good. It's really great. I guess something else. Yeah. You're so hot right now, he said flirtatiously. Cove hung his bright red face in embarrassment after that. He wrapped his arms around his torso bashfully, as if trying to protect himself and the outfit from further teasing. Come on, Luna. You laughed at the reaction. Then he shook his head, glanced back toward the garage, and throwing a thumb over his shoulder, spoke.
Come on.
We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah, let's go. We headed over to Cove's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. The event was being held at a place you had never been before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there, you met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already showed up and claimed the spaces. Eventually, you found a suitable place, before realizing their required payments. Cove covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Despite the small hold-up, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirmed you were on the guest list before being shown into the dining area. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers were hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. It's so nice. It had to be so impressed by the work that had gone into making everything look this lovely, and how everyone had to dress up in their best outfits for the nights. Seeing Cove smile as he took the insights made you think he must be feeling the same way. The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din in the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. They approached you both in greeting, giving you a warm, welcoming smile and hello. Cove, Luna, we're glad to see you can make it, especially after the hard work you've done to make this night happen.
Of course.
Definitely, I wasn't going to miss it. Oh, I'm thrilled to have made it. This place looks amazing. It's so nice to do something like this. Well, thank you for being part of the team. You're always welcome to help out with activities whenever they come up. Thank you. Cove shrugged then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look.
So...
I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do in an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around, chatting while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between guests, offering drinks and canapes. Cove was clearly hesitant to actually approach the people, but was able to respond when various people greeted him first. You were enjoying talking to so many different people, both guests and members of the organization alike, and found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of the microphone cackling came to the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assume must be the host for the event was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which I suppose was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There are many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. When she read off the list of several volunteers who had worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. His cheeks flushed with a shy pride at that. Her name then came up a little further down the lists. You were smiling from ear to ear at the mention. As she continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers over the tops of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. You could relate to that feeling. It felt good to be acknowledged for all the hard work you had done leading up to the event. You had likely kept smiling without even realizing it. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course on the menu in front of guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary restriction note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version, and there was a small basket of bread around the table. You just ate some of the bread. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching on his breadstick, quickly devouring it as well. I hope the next part comes out soon and is bigger. You can hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table and he followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand in midair, he quickly pulled back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel a little unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. You didn't like the salad? I don't really like Caesar salad. I get it. His gaze remained purposely tunneled on you, as if he was trying not to even think about what the rest of the table might be doing. He picked up a breadstick and gave it to Cove. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Cove spoke gently as he took the breadstick from your hand, looking choked up at your reassurance. He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes was being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted throughout the room, making your mouth water. You had chosen the chicken. A plate with perfectly roasted chicken and vegetables were set in front of you, and a delectable pale gravy. Cove had gone for the steak, and when she started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. You kicked him under the table teasingly. The tips of your toes knocked against his shin discreetly, but enough for him to really feel it. He bolted upright in shock, almost choking on a mouthful of food. The look he gave you was far from impressed, but his eyes still held a glint of amusement. You knew from your gaze, you threw your gaze away from him innocently, as though you had done nothing at all. When you peeked to see if he had gone off scot-free, he rolled his eyes and returned to his meal. You chuckled lightly beneath your breath, and he did the same, thoroughly entertained. Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert, a lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white with bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was a price to pay for the artistry. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Digging into the dessert took only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in the chair, sipping at his water unhappily. can get more dessert later." He gave him an encouraging smile. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for defense.
I mean...
It was really good, that's all. Now it's gone, but I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show off how he was really fine. "Would you like a bite of mine?" He scooped up a spoonful of your sorbet and offered it to him, holding up a hand beneath it to avoid any drips. His eyes widened as he eyed the dessert hungrily, surprised by the offer. Recovering quickly, he leaned forward over the table, lifting out of the chair a little as he ate the treat from your spoon. You sat back, humming happily with his mouth full. You couldn't help but smile at the sights. Cove swallowed the Fox Ocean and let out a satisfied sigh, even though it wasn't that much more. The simple fact that he got more of it hit the spot.
Thanks.
Thanks, Luna. You're welcome. You were pleased to see how he was perky, and you went back to eating the rest of your desserts. Another person from the Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about the individual projects that the organization was working on and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who was interested in volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with the chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wonder what would happen now? And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water-light effect around the room. A guest gushed over the ambience, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples of the walls. The DJs that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When Cove glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up, and he mumbled quietly,
"Huh.
I didn't think there'd be dancing. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it." He gave an awkward laugh as both of you watched people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donuts were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJs played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove let his gaze float over the small sea of guests, and he seemed lost in thought. A serious expression had settled on his face, making his eyebrows dip. Slowly, he turned to you, though there was something cautious in his approach. Would you want to dance with me? I'd love to. His face lit up. You can even tell beneath the dim lights. He nodded firmly as he rose from his sheet, though you noticed his hands shaking at his sides. You walked onto the floor together, hesitating a little when you turned and stood face to face. Cove had a hard time meeting your eye, but he lifted a hand for you to take, unsure of what else he was meant to do. Taking his hand, you took the leap and whispered to him, "We'll be fine." It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter, you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. It was quite nice after that. Every time your eyes met Cove's, he would look away quickly, but he seemed to be enjoying the dance nonetheless. Eventually, he felt comfortable enough to speak. "A lot happened, huh?" You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if you meant just today, this summer, or your entire time of knowing each other, but it really didn't matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try and reflect on all of it at once.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad we ended up here. It gave you a soft look and you beamed, knowing that it could also mean many things. But from his tone, you are certain he didn't only mean here at this event. It was more than that. There's nowhere else I would rather be. The party eventually started to wind down, and then at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all of the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Giving this face one more look, you walked together with Cove out of the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd, though Cove was tall, so you could always see him, and it was easy enough to not get separated. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now that a few cars blocked the view. It took a while to actually locate Cove's car across the expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet, and you as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was over just like that. Outside of your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his drive-in and pulled it back into park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down the road, Cove coming over to stand beside you. You'd stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together, as though he'd suddenly thought better of it. Thank you for taking me tonight. Thanks for coming with me. Gave him a friendly nudge. Gave you a small poke in return, blinking heavily as he smiled at you. Night, Luna. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door. Freaking you shouldn't linger in the street for much longer, you crossed the remainder of the road into the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door with a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see what he was doing the same, holding his front door open, but waiting for you to get inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your own houses, locking the door behind you. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your former clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed over your teeth and got ready for bed in the darkness, before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It still felt strange to think about how it was. The build-up to the event had felt like so much. Now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with the rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. Unconsciousness creeped up on you and felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you could get next. And then you were taken away from your dreams right back into reality by sounds. Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be a part of the waking world again. The day was over and had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was a tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was a tapping that came from your window. Cove Holden. You slowly forced yourself to get up. You pried yourself out of your bed, your blanket flung back, and you rolled and sank into the floor. You froze for a second there to let your half-asleep brain process the fact that you were mostly on your feet now. There was another tap at the window. You shuffled toward the window, something akin to a zombie. Wearily, you opened the window, and there was Cove. You blinked at him. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you had taken aback to see that he was still overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean or if he felt weird about something. His body felt too stiff and awkward. Even given that Cove was normally all thumbs, he looked off balance, significantly more so than usual. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, Luna. It's nice to see you, Romeo. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now. He was holding something. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. He caught you looking and shrugged. I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped together hands where you could see them. But then something happened, and, well, I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute. Carefully, sitting inside was a tiny yellow light. It blinked on and off then again, a firefly. Delicately, he moved his hand closer to you so you could see the creature better. They're back. Aww, that's so sweet. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by the insect companion. Honestly, I didn't think I'll get to see them this year. I don't know why, it's just that they're kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that that the firefly gently lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. The fact that his first thought after discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes and he looked away, not meeting yours. He's so precious.
It's nice.
It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back, and I can see them again. He smiled, and then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about them. You felt a warmth in your heart. Cove looked at your face, his smile now fragile. It makes me think about the two of us. We're together, and then we say goodbye, and then we're together again. Day after day, year after year, and even if our time gets apart longer, it doesn't make it forever.
Luna,
I'll always be there wherever you want to see me. You quietly, like, as much as I want to say this, but that could ruin the other things. You quietly said his name. Cove. You couldn't say a word. Teared up. Your eyes suddenly watered and tried to contain your wave of emotions. Cove chuckled and suddenly shied, then he put an arm around your neck and relaxed into a half hug. The firefly suddenly flew off, blinking once and twice as it looked for another perch. It went dark, and then you saw it reappear outside your still open window. Cove didn't seem to mind. That's good. I'm glad he doesn't seem to mind that. Cove looked at you, affection playing on his face. Hey, do you still want to go out to the hill? The fireflies are still there. Aw, that's nice. He nodded yes. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret incursion before suddenly becoming too bashful.
So...
how should we leave? We could just try the door. We don't have to do the window thing, but maybe that'll bother your family. You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your mom's or worse Lizzie saw you going on a midnight firefly catching trip. You would be sure to avoid that. But you wanted to use the front door. The door should be fine. My moms don't wake up from people in the living room as long as they're quiet. Cove nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you'd run into another soul outside. Cove would be way overdressed and you were still in your jammies. Creeping closer to your door for the trip out, Cove whispered one more question. Should I follow behind you? You outlined the optimal route to keep your path the farthest from your parents' room. Sure, we'll stay on the left side of the hall and then duck into the living room. And remember, don't step on the floor right by the bathroom. It squeaks. Right. The two of you huddled together and exited your room. You would tiptoe quietly down the stairs, wincing when your knees popped and then froze. Neither of you heard anything further, so you continued to the front door. You unlocked the door slowly and tried to minimize the click of the lock. You took a deep breath and then turned the knob. You let Cove out first and then snuck out in the brisk night air. It was surprisingly cool, but not at all unpleasant. Cove gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you risked speaking yet. Yet you briefly snuck behind the house and ended up on the old white poppy hill. And Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects twinkling here and there with their pale yellow lights. Cove let out a contented sigh. Finally being able to relax in full, you strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove plopped onto his back, paid no mind to the smacking his formal wear tile in the grass. He put an arm under his head, stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. You kept standing. You put your arms around yourself and loosened yourself into a comfortable stance near him. I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains. He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. At least they're dark. If you're lucky, he won't be able to tell. He smiled. His smile bent a little and went silent between you two. The only sounds were the rustling bugs in the breeze and the far-away crashes of waves on the sea. You ask Cove to dance with you. Cove, Holden, may I have this dance? Cove stared at you in shock at the invitation. Understandably, he had not expected that. He felt obliged to try and say more. I'd just like to. Cove's eyes crinkled and he smiled softly. Okay. Cove stood up and wiped his hands off in his pants, brushing off the grass. You faced across each other, and suddenly the prospect of what you were doing became more real. Cove hesitated at a moment as he both tried to decide what move to make now. He nervously wrapped an arm around your back and carefully took your other hand in his own. He pulled in a deep breath, and you couldn't help but notice just how close the two of you were. The two of you began to sway together amidst the floating lights. Despite the lack of music, you found the rhythm to your movements. Back and forth. Step to the side and slide. Step to the side and slide. It was relaxed and freeing. Your eyes never strayed from one another. For a time, you just existed in the moment, holding each other close and enjoying being together. The hour grew late, and the fireflies mostly dispersed, until only a few stragglers remained. Then, even as they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove and your thoughts. It felt as though this was the night it would never end, but you knew it would have to all too soon. You're only grateful to have been a part of it. Those moments were to treasure, and you already knew you would be remembering them for a long time. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I hope you guys have a good day, night, week, month of your lives. And may the stars forever guide your path wherever it might lead you into the future. Goodbye, and hope to see you guys again soon.